single person here has my heart. So my name is Sabrina Smith, and I'm a proud American Israeli. I first went to Israel when I was 18 on birthright. I know, I'm kind of a cliche. I went on birthright thinking that I would go for a free trip and partying and falafel and some probably really cute Israeli men. What I didn't expect was that I was literally coming home. When I landed in Israel, I fell absolutely irrevocably in love with the country, with the people, and with the culture. Growing up, I felt like I never really found my quote-unquote place. I never truly fit in. And when I got to Israel, I finally felt like I belonged. And it's the most beautiful experience in the world that I'm grateful for. So being said that, when I was 19, I went back for 2 weeks on a learning trip to learn more, to experience more. Little did I know that I would spend the next 3.5 years there and become a citizen and become an Oleh Chadashah. I cannot talk about Israel enough. I cannot talk about the people and culture enough. Israel needs to exist. Israel needs the right to defend itself. Israel is one of the most moral and ethical places in this world. It's absolutely insane. But the fight isn't over. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism is on the rise. We've seen it blatantly this week. And so seriously, you all are so courageous and brave for standing here today in a fight that not a lot of people will fight for. Israel has to exist. It just has to. And what people don't understand about Israel is that the media doesn't show that we coexist with everyone. Israel is a melting pot. You have your Jews, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have Druzes, you have Arabs, you have Russians, Asians, you have every person possible coinciding in Israel. When you go to a hospital in Israel, you don't get to say, can I have a Jewish doctor or an Arab doctor? Because they work side by side and you're treated by everyone. On the trains and buses in Israel, you have someone standing next to you in a bikini on their way to Tel Aviv, and then you have a woman in a full hijab next to you, along with a Christian missionary on a trip. And everyone lives together in peace. And that's what this is about. It's about voicing the peace that Israel stands for. And the lies and misinformation that people are getting is not true. And that's what we're here to fight for today. I seriously, from the bottom of my heart, cannot thank you enough. Like I said, this is beautiful. This is unreal. Like I said, Israel is the most moral and ethical place on earth. And this is here, what we're here to is for to exemplify that. We are here to be a voice for Israel, to show that Israelis are not the people that they make us out to be. So thank you again for coming out. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Let's play some music, let's send some prayers, and let's just voice our love and support for everyone in the Middle East, for our Palestinian brothers and sisters, for our Israeli brothers and sisters. We love every single person. We're here to show support. Too many people are suffering. Palestinians are suffering. Israelis are suffering. We want to end that suffering for every single person. So, thank you. Let's have a great pro-peace rally. And I'm Ezra Chai.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. As they say, may many see your example and follow it. Thank you. Of course, prayer has been a part of the Jewish story, as it is for so many faiths, from the beginning of time. And so today we're going to join together in a prayer. It is the most fundamental prayer in Jewish faith, the prayer of the Shema, where we close our eyes for 1 second. We think of something, a power greater than ourselves, because each and every one of us is different and distinct in so many ways. And today the world is facing a crisis of division, where we seek to find separation rather than commonality. And the whole focus of Shema is about unity. Unity amongst people, unity amongst God's creations, unity in everything that we see. So if you're comfortable joining me, you can read from the program. It is written in Hebrew, transliterated, and in English. And we'll say it all together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. There's a beautiful song from King David's book of Psalms. And King David was a unique guy because he was a poet, a musician that was forced to take up arms and fight for his people, to defend his country. But at his heart, he was a man of peace. And he expressed that so beautifully in the book of Psalms that he wrote. And this is Psalm 121. I'll sing the song, and then we can say it together in English. Shir Amalot Esainai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Ezri Me'im Hashem Ose Shamayim V'aretz Al Yiten Lamot Raglecha Al Yanum Shomrecha Hine Lo Yanum Lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael Hashem Shomrecha Hashem Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakeka V'yareach B'layla Hashem Yishmorcha Mikora Yishmor et nafshecha Hashem Yishmor tzidcha uvoecha Me'ata v'yad olam Me'ata v'yad olam. A song of ascent. I lift my eyes to the mountain. From where will my help come? My help will come from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot falter. Your guardian does not slumber. Indeed, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your protective shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. The Lord will guard your going and your coming from now and for all time. I'm going to say amen. We're very fortunate that Israel's support isn't counted strictly amongst the Jewish community, but by many, many others who understand the beauty and the value of this wonderful land. And today we're going to hear from one such person, Pastor Rob Mallon, who is the lead pastor along with his wife Jennifer at the Lion Church, and a close and dear friend of ours and the Jewish community in general, a man who has not only visited Israel, but has lived in Israel and has done extensive work with Yad Vashem. We now invite Pastor Rob to share a few words.
Well, it's certainly a privilege to be here this afternoon. I'm so honored to stand with you in support of Israel. I've been to Israel, I think, 9 times now. It's probably my favorite place on the planet to visit. In most cases, when I've traveled there, we end up spending 2 or 3 or 4 additional days or weeks every time we go, so we just decided not to even have a deadline on our ticket. We won't even open a ticket because we always want to stay longer because it's such a beautiful country. Is anybody here ever been to Israel and you can attest to the fact that it's such a beautiful, it's beautiful, right? How many don't want to come home? How many know you lose weight eating food over there? It's beautiful, right? It's awesome. The food is so good. The culture is good. You know, one of the things that, the first time I took a trip to Israel, I went with about 35 youth. Christian youth, that is, and their lives were absolutely transformed. My life was absolutely transformed. The Bible that I had read for so long, I realized was not a Christian Bible. It was actually a Jewish Bible. How many of you know that? You can't separate the God of Israel from the Bible, even the Christian Bible, believe it or not. And as I started reading and as I started visiting Israel, I started to realize I actually have Jewish roots that I really had not necessarily ignored, but because of a divorce, I really didn't get exposure to. And so as I've grown, I'm now a 50-year-old man, I feel like a baby being born again, learning about my Jewish culture, learning about my Jewish roots. My grandfather actually was a Jewish American soldier that fought in World War II. He was a very highly decorated man, and he escaped 3 prison camps during this time. And again, as a child, I didn't understand and appreciate this, but now having visited Yad Vashem and studied there for 14 days, a whole new picture of Israel and my heritage has come alive to me. And I want to give you just 4 very simple, quick reasons why I support Israel. Well, number one, Israel is the first line of defense. In that culture, how many know there's no other line of defense? There's only one line of defense, and that's Israel. And that's the defense, a tiny state the size of New Jersey, believe it or not. A tiny state the size of New Jersey holds back jihad, Hamas, ISIS, Hezbollah, right there in the heart of the Middle East. If we lose Israel, we lose the only line of defense that we have. How many of you are aware of that? Okay. Second reason I believe that we should stand with Israel is the only free democratic state in that entire region. There's no other state that offers freedom to gays, to Christians, to blacks, to whites, to Arabs, to Palestinians. Just like our friend here said earlier, Israel embraces all people and gives rights to all people, human rights. How many of you are aware of this? Are you listening to me? Israel's a place that embraces morality, right? And so the Bible embraces morality, and the Bible embraces freedom. And so Israel's a place that actually produces and releases freedom, right? The third reason I support Israel is because Israel's an economic powerhouse. When it comes to science, medical, high-tech breakthroughs, this small country is an innovative giant. How many of you are aware of that? It ranks number 5 in the world. And when there's natural disasters, typhoons, hurricanes, things of that nature, in 2010 when we went to Wanamith, Haiti, to do a missions trip to help folks that were actually impacted by the earthquake, the first folks that were on the scene were Jewish medical doctors. It was amazing to see that Israel was the first on the scene to respond to crisis. And that's actually fulfilling the biblical mandate that Israel's supposed to be the light of the world. Number 4 reason that I say that I support Israel, and this is the main reason, above all the different things I could say about Israel, there's only 4 things I'm saying right now. I could give 100 reasons why. The main reason why is because God endorses Israel. So, Jeremiah 30, verses 3 through 4 says, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will bring my people Israel and Judah back from captivity and restore them to the land I gave their ancestors to possess," says the Lord. These are the words the Lord spoke concerning Israel and Judah. Israel is God's land. And you can't separate God from Israel, and you can't separate God from the Bible. And if God endorses the people of Israel, then we must endorse the people of Israel, whether they're Christian, Jew, or not. And so I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I have a psalm right around my neck that I carry each and every day, and it tells me that may I lose my right hand, my right hand lose its cunning if I forget Jerusalem. So I never forget Jerusalem. I never forget the Jewish people. They're in my heart, and we need to continue to pray for peace and unity and transformation, not just for the Jewish community, but also for the Palestinians that are also being affected by this. God bless you guys.
Thank you so much, Pastor Rob, for your meaningful and heartfelt words. I'm not sure how to call up Laureen because she has so many titles. I know I'm probably going to forget a few. Those of you that know her know she is an ardent supporter of Israel, a leader in our Tampa Jewish community, and a passionate and involved supporter of so many wonderful causes. So without further ado, please welcome Laureen Jaffee.
So I first want to start with a blessing because I see that there are Palestinian protesters, people who are anti-Israel, and not just anti-Israel but anti-Jew, which means their hearts are filled with hate. But the one thing we know about the God of Israel is that he's the God of Shalom. And so there's a prayer we say on Shabbat, and a lot of you, even Jews, probably don't know this in English, but it's called Rabbon God of Shalom, come and bless us today with peace. I am very passionate about today, and some of you may have listened to the radio show earlier today. You may have heard Mike and I last week as well.
Oh, you might.
But it was deeply saddening to me this week that I literally had Jews in our community calling me and emailing me, scared to come and bring their children because of the gross violence against Jews in this nation. You know, this shows the haters' true colors. They're not against Zionism. They're not against Israeli policy. They are truly haters. They have no love in their hearts. And what I've learned from General Kareem Shalom is the crossing point. This past week, you wouldn't have heard in the mainstream media, but there was massive amounts of humanitarian aid going into Gaza to help the Palestinian people suffering under Hamas. And Hamas literally was launching rockets against the humanitarian aid going to help their own people. So I ask for God of Shalom to bless the Palestinian protesters here today with peace and with love in their hearts, that they would actually love their own people, that they would actually stand for humanity and stand for human rights and stand up for the people of Palestine and the people in Gaza who are suffering tremendously. So may the God of Shalom bless you. May he who blesses Israel bless you with peace. You know, someone today, a friend earlier this week told me that this was the end of the golden age for Jews in this nation. And I say no. I say it is only the beginning. Because I see not just Jews here, but I see the non-Jews, Christian brethren who love us. You know, first of all, I do want to honor you. I want to take a moment as a Jew to honor all the Christians who came today. Because that wasn't a light price. Thank you for having the boldness to stand up. When even Jews in our own community are scared. We are scared of retaliation. We're scared of retaliation in our jobs. We're scared of retaliation in our social networks with our friends. We can't go on social media. Our children are being fed lies of hate. And they're being fed, spread rumors, even not just mainstream media, but social media. Violent rhetoric. So the Palestinian protesters that are here today, they speak hate and they call forth violence. We've seen in protests around this nation this week, we've seen the Palestinian protesters calling for women and children to be raped. We've seen elderly and young girls being beaten up. We've seen the Jewish communities in Los Angeles having Palestinian protesters go to their doors and banging on them if they saw a mezuzah. People are living in fear of pogroms right now in this nation. So I just, again, want to welcome the God of peace and the God of shalom to bless those protesters, that they will have peace, that they will not have hate in their hearts. And so we just want to thank you all today for coming and for standing for peace and standing for what is right, because we all made a pledge many years ago of never again. And this is the thing. When good people remain silent, never again doesn't happen. And we must keep our voices open and speaking and call forth for peace. So Am Yisrael Chai.
The birds are chirping, that's all. There's no reason to be alarmed. King Solomon says that I have never seen the power of wisdom in the face of stupidity, and I have never seen the power of light in the face of darkness. So let's not lose focus of why we're here. And with that in mind, I would like to call another good friend of the Jewish community, Minister Max Crespo. He's very involved in the Hispanic culture and Hispanic and Latin community, and also a very close friend of Israel. Thank you, Minister, for being here.
Shalom. This is great. This is not the beginning of a great nation in Israel. Amen. My name is Maximiliano Crespo.
That's a 500.
I am a minister for Crime for Israel is my ministry. I grew up standing for Israel since I was 12 years old. Israel.